Evidence is going to show that 4 o'clock existed for a while.
Advised a female shot in the head. A son is shot also.
Pow. 2 shots, abdomen and the leg.
Executed. Why?
This is a long story. My son was in a boat wreck a few months back. He's been getting threats. Most stuff has been benign stuff we didn't take serious.
Both Pat, Maggie, and Paul were shot at extremely close range.
No human blood detected. Period.
It is time now for today's Talkback segment. Each day we post a question on Court TV's social media pages. We gather your comments and questions and respond right here on the show. Today we wanted to get your reaction to the first day of testimony in the murder trial against disgraced attorney Alex Murdaugh. Joining me still as my guest for this hour, criminal defense attorneys Jack Rice and David Bruno, a murderer's row of defense attorneys. Our first comment comes from Deep. Deep says, the police took 20 minutes, but Alex didn't grab his son and wife in grief or try to render aid. He asked several times, were they dead? If he wasn't covered in blood, that suggests he didn't try and render aid if he believed they were still alive. He also interjected a motive. And Dave, you know what's interesting is a lot of the state's case, and again, we haven't gotten through their case, but a lot of it involves these weird little things that he did and the inferences that they want the jury to make, when in fact, I believe he did. I think there were some smudges. They couldn't see the blood, but there turns out there was some blood, and they believe it might have been by transfer, or maybe there was some spatter. That's a whole other issue. But at the end of the day, the actions of Alex Murdaugh are going to come under intense scrutiny in this case.
Yeah, 2 points here, Michael. First, the actions of a particular defendant on scene when dealing with tragedy and trauma and viewing what he viewed, everybody in this world will interpret that differently and act differently. And I see this all the time by prosecutors making the argument that he should have acted a certain way. That's not accurate when it comes to human nature. And second off is there's a huge difference between transfer and spatter. I mean, without a doubt, if he's close range like we think the killers were, he should have had spatter on his clothing from the blowback from the blood. And that doesn't seem to be the case. And we saw it in cross-examination today that there's a possibility that he may have checked the pulse or rolled his son over, and that may explain a transfer. But the patterns between transfer and spatter are completely different, and any competent expert will be able to explain the difference.
And there's the key phrase, is any competent expert, as we well know.
Yeah.
The blood evidence in this case was made a complete mess of by SLED, and we're not sure exactly whether it's even going to be a part of the case. Jack, you're clapping, and talk about it, because we don't even know at this point if they're even going to mention the blood, because it's such really a mess at this point.
Yeah, it's a disaster when you realize that SLED, when the prosecution in particular, who normally is the one who's championing forensics, they're the last one to bring it up. Yes. They don't want to talk about the blood because it was a disaster and they created it. Remember, the state has to prove beyond a singular reasonable doubt. Yeah. And my response is, shall we go down the long list of reasonable doubts? And if you go through all of their mistakes, that's one thing. But there's the second piece, and this is something we talked about earlier. It's the concept of motive. If you heard his attorney say during the openings, this was execution style. How is it that a man blows his child, his wife, to pieces in front of them with blood and brains, and you can't say why? Versus, well, you know, it's kind of a distraction thing. Really? That's going to be your argument? Yeah. I'm sorry. At this point, you better get better than that. They got a lot of work to do.
It's certainly odd when the brutality of the crime works in favor of the defendant. Our next comment comes from Boyd. Boyd says the extra tire tracks mentioned will be interesting later on. I should hope that SLED can account for them, or the defense will use this as probable doubt of something else having been there. I'm going to have to leave it there, gentlemen. I've run out of time, but again, it goes to what you said earlier, David, this idea that there's all these little reasonable doubts floating around. All the defense has to do is pick them out of the air, put them in front of the jury, and then I think they're going to be on a good road here. I'll put it that way, on a good road. All right, David Bruno, Jack Rice, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Truly appreciate it. Sorry we didn't have more time to talk. We'll get you guys.